been a really busy week here and I thought it would be fun to do a vlog style video because I haven't done one of those for a while. If you're new here, my name is Becca and I make videos about living a slower, more creative life in, I'm going to call it semi-retirement because I do still work a little bit. Anyway, I thought I would just take you along and show you what I've been doing this week. I've been baking and spinning and natural dyeing and of course, as always, out for a walk with my little dog Millie. So why don't you come along and see what I've been up to. So I guess last week is going to be one of those weeks that we're all supposed to remember for kind of years to come. It is the week that Sir Keir Starmer became our Prime Minister. I don't really know what to think about it all. I was very interested in politics a few years ago, but I have to say I'm a lot less interested than I used to be. It seems to me that it doesn't really matter what colour the party is in charge. It's the little person that suffers, and they're all about big business. So really, honestly, I don't think it makes any difference at all which party is in power. I'm just feeling a bit cynical, I don't know. And I didn't really want to talk about politics because, you know, just everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I'm certainly not here to tell you who to vote for or, you know, kind of what political views to hold. Anyway, so yeah, so that's what happened last week. I'll just turn you around and show you where we are. We are in the woods up above the Gwaun Valley. We have been here before, I've taken you here before, but it was much earlier in the season. And as you can see, it's really wet again because it has rained and rained and rained and rained and rained, as quite often happens at this time of July. So I think first week of Wimbledon is always wet, second week is always dry. I don't think that's actually a rule, but it feels like it. So we're just coming up here on the off chance that there are some early mushrooms, and in this woodland we get hedgehog mushrooms and we get red cracked boletus. So this mossy bank here is absolutely prime for collecting and finding the red cracked boletus. Gosh, put my teeth back in. Red cracked boletus. Probably a little bit early, but because we've had all this rain, they might materialise. But we'll carry on a bit further, see if we find any. Now, this week's video was planned to be our staycation video, because in theory we had some friends and relatives staying locally to us. They don't stay with us, nobody can stay with us. We live in a very small bungalow, 450 square feet, which even by UK standards is quite small. The average sort of two-bedroom property in the UK is around 650 square feet, about that, and we're 450. So we don't have the room for people to stay with us, but they stay just down the road in one of the many lovely holiday cottages and bed and breakfasts and Airbnbs that there are. But just put a foot down a hole. But yeah, but they've had to cancel, so our staycation is postponed for a little bit. So it's not going to be a staycation video this week. It's going to be a sort of vlog style video this week, which, you know, I quite like making them. I mean, they don't get the views that my how-to videos get, but you know, oh well. It's all a bit of fun, isn't it? So, oh, I'm puffing and panting. God, I'm so unfit. We have another friend coming to have lunch with us next week, so probably what we'll do is we'll have our staycation next week and have lunch with our friend, and going to do a little kind of cob barbecue, nice smoky chicken in the back garden. If there are too many wasps, we'll just go into the conservatory to eat, but we will actually cook our main sort of dish outside and then just have some nice salad and things with it. And yeah, probably my friend won't want to be on video, so I probably won't record that, but I might record the actual chicken being cooked, because it's a very neat little barbecue, the Cobb barbecue, and I'd quite like to share that with you, because I think if you are just sort of one of you or one or two of you, then it makes a really great little barbecue, and you don't have to sort of have this great big barbecue going to enjoy barbecue food. What else have we got planned? So I also was really hoping I was going to make a video that would include one of the accessible walks that we have in Pembrokeshire. Gosh, I've been oh my goodness, I'm out of breath, been climbing up the hill. You can't tell, but it's actually quite steep, this wood. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to be able to do some filming there, and Andrew probably will make a cameo appearance. I mean, he doesn't really mind being in the videos, but he doesn't particularly want to be talking on video. So he always gives his kind of opinion on what the paths are like. So if you're a wheelchair user, how accessible it actually is, because sometimes even when people say their paths or their properties are accessible, they're not. Or they're more challenging than maybe they should be. So that really is the plan for next week. But this week, gosh, going to be a busy week, I think. The yarrow is ready to be picked. The carrots are ready to be picked. The loganberries are ready to be picked, and there are some black currants still to be picked. So I'm going to have fun playing with all of those. So I will share some of that with you. If I find any mushrooms, which I don't think I'm going to, but if I do, I will share those. But until then, I'll see you in a minute. So we're at the top of the hill, and no mushrooms. But it is quite early. It was just on the off chance, really, and Millie likes coming here, so we thought we would just I don't know why I'm saying we, like she has an input on where we go. I mean, I tell her, I say, do you want to go to the beach or do you want to go to the woods? And she kind of does her head to side thing, and, you know, I just decide for her, because, you know, she's a dog. Am I actually going to include that last bit in the video? Maybe. Anyway, so, top of the hill, out of breath, going to have a little rest, and then back down, and on with the jobs I have to do. I am back working on my invitation designs, which, if you've been around here for any length of time, you'll know that I started this channel because I just was absolutely stuck and didn't want to work on my graphic designs and my invitations that I sell on Zazzle. And after a lot of kind of faffing about, I've kind of found my graphic design mojo again, which is great. I mean, I only really work sort of 2 hours in the morning. So before Andrew and the dog get up, I'm a very early riser. So I'm quite often up at stupid o'clock in the morning, and I will just sit down and do a couple of hours of graphic design work. And then that's sort of me done for the day, really. And as I've shared on here before, I do seem to repeat myself quite a lot, so I'm sorry if you've heard this before. But in case you haven't heard this before, it's just enough money just to sort of pay for my hobbies, really, just kind of a bit of fibre and sort of equipment that I want, and so that I'm not sort of dipping into our sort of household income to sort of play around with my hobbies, which, I mean, really would be okay to dip in, I guess, but I just feel I'd like not to do that. And again, if you have not heard me say this before, so Andrew, my partner, had a life-changing brain injury in 2015, and we had to basically decide what we were going to do because he was unable to work. So we sold everything up from sort of about 20 miles south of Bristol, and then moved 250 miles west to beautiful North Pembrokeshire and have our kind of bijou little bungalow on the coast. And yeah, we just try to live our best life, which most of the time we do. And I hope you get the impression from the videos that although obviously it was challenging, and it is challenging in lots of ways, actually we really do make the most of it, and we have a pretty a pretty grievy life, and we were very lucky that we were in the position that we did have a house and a business to sell, because if it happened a few years ago, so before it did, then we may not have been in such a great position. So on that note, I'm going to turn the camera off, walk back down the hill, and I will, what am I going to show you next? I'm not quite sure what I'm going to show you next, but we will see, won't we? So, tatty bye until then. We are back down at the bottom of the hill, and I just thought I would show you these little cuties, and that is a George the VI letterbox, and then across here is a disused red telephone box, and I sort of think that might be one for the sketchbook. Yarrow is a common lawnweed, and what I do is I let it grow up so there's enough for me to put in a dye bath. My rule of thumb when I'm dyeing with plant tops like this is that I use twice as much plant material the amount of fibre that I want to dye. In today's dye bath we've got some of this Welsh mule, and I'm actually not going to scour this, just to see how well the colour comes out. Normally you would scour anything that's comb top because there is a bit of grease in it, but I'm just going to give it a whirl, see what happens. And I'm going to use this slightly overspun Gotland, and what's very important with this is when you tie it up, make sure there's plenty of room for the fibres to move about, because if not, then you can end up with a sort of stripe of undyed, which probably isn't so bad on a grey colour, but on a white it's not great at all. So those are the wools that I'll be dyeing. I love being able to work outside, and I am going to do a full how-to video for this, but you can see that I always soak my fibre well before I add it to the dye bath. My only heat source is in the kitchen, and I'm quite happy to use yarrow in the kitchen because it is a herb and I've got no danger of accidentally poisoning myself while using this plant. Today I'm going to experiment with using copper sulphate, and it can quite often create a lovely green, but sometimes a bit of a khaki brown, so it really is just a case of having a go. And I am using gloves and being careful, but it is a fairly benign substance, and in fact it's quite often used in gardening to improve the soil. But copper is poisonous, so really make sure you're wearing your gloves and you haven't got any cuts on your hands when you're handling it. I'm adding my wetted fibres back into the dye bath, which contains the extracted colour and the copper sulphate. Then it'll be back onto the stove to simmer slowly for about an hour. It's easy to felt hot, wet wool, so carefully remove it once the dye bath has cooled down a bit, and don't agitate it. Then once it's cool, you can give it a bit of a wash with a wool wash and then rinse in warm water. And I'll share the results a little bit later on in the video. So jam making season is absolutely upon us, and I've already made one batch, but I'm going to make another one, and it's going to be loganberry and what's left over of the black currants. There were just a few left on the bush the last time I did a pick, so I'll do a sort of a mixed berry jam. And if I haven't got enough loganberries, I've got some blackberries in the freezer from last year that need using up, so I shall add those as well, and it'll be a lovely jammy concoction. So let's go and see how many of the locanberries we've got left. The locanberry is a cross between a raspberry and a blackberry, and it grows really well in our location, and it's up against a south-facing fence, and it is a little bit raised up, so I do have to sort of clamber about to go and pick them. They make an excellent jam by themselves, but mixed with blackcurrants and blackberries, they are absolutely delicious. I only ever make quite small batches of jam, so we end up with enough just for ourselves and then a few jars to gift to friends. Having a really busy day in the kitchen, making Barabrith and jam. So fingers crossed, get it all done, because there's all the usual things to do, you know, walking the dog and making the dinner and all that stuff. So I'm going to get on with that. I soaked the fruit last night, so it's all ready just to have the flour put in and pretty much just go in the oven really. I mean, Barabrith's really simple, but it is delish. It's cut. Here is the fruit that's been soaked in tea, and it's got the brown sugar in with it and the mixed herbs. Mixed spice, mixed herbs. That'd be a whole other different dish, I think. Anyway, so there we go. That is ready for the flour, but I've got to line the tin. Come on, engage brain. Line the tin and put the oven on, and basically get ready to put that in the oven. Barabrith has literally just come out of the oven, so I'm going to let it sit there for 5 or so minutes and then I shall turn it out. Looking pretty good, pretty pleased with that. Now the theory is that this should just lift out. Oh yes, it's working. There you go. There we go. Right, slide that out and just leave that to cool, and we shall enjoy that. Probably not later on today, probably sometime tomorrow. I have finally finished knitting my tea cosy. Then the next thing is I actually want Andrew to take a nice photo so I can include that either on a blog post or in my newsletter. So I'm sure I can persuade him. Let's see what he can do. Is the teapot in the right place?
Yeah, it's waiting on it.
Okay, cool.
All cut a little.
Okay.
No, yes, that way. Bit more further back. And a bit more here back. Keep going, I'll do.
So here are the results of the dyeing. It's all properly dried, and what I probably hadn't shown at the beginning was I just popped in a couple of samples. So that's silk and that is cotton. Then there is the Gotland, and I did a couple of unspun bits of Gotland as well. So there you go. I think I prefer it without the coppering. I have done it without copper before, and it's been a bit more of a sort of a pale yellow. I think this has a touch of the cowpats about it, but you don't know until you try. I like it on the silk. I think it works really well on the silk, and I like it on the grey as well. I mean, you can't actually tell until you spin it up, and probably blended it's going to be fine, but yeah, I don't think that's one I'm going to do again. Where did the summer go? My goodness, it's really cold. I'm actually going to have to split the last of the logs and light a fire because it is properly chilly. We were cold last night and that just is middle of July. What's going on? So, right, now I'm going to take you over to Chaos Corner, which you don't normally see because normally it's even more chaotic than it is at the moment. But the reason it's Chaos Corner is because the woodshed's over there and the woodshed is falling apart. So let's go and have a little look at that and yeah, split some wood. Normally I don't show you this bit because it's all kind of falling apart and messy, even more than everything else. But let's just have a look in here and you can see that is, as you can see there, chaos. And that is all that is left of the wood. So I'm going to have to root around in there and find something that can actually put on the fire tonight. I think that modest pile is going to be enough for tonight, and I've got some old frames and beehive that I've just kind of stamped on them, so they've gone in half and they've got a bit of beeswax on them, so those will be good as kindling. They'll start the fire really well. We don't need it for very long, probably only a couple of hours just to take the chill off, but I think that should do it. The trouble with this time of year, you've got lots of sort of the last bits of wood that are really difficult to split. So I'm hoping I don't have to attempt to. I have tried to split this one and no, that wasn't going. And these are too big to go on the fire as they are. So yeah, I might have to donate those to someone who's got a fire pit. Because I was not getting anywhere with that. It's quite common in this part of Wales not to have mains gas, and the way we heat is electric with storage heaters as sort of a background heat, and then we have the fire just to really make it nice and cosy. But this time of the year, I mean, middle of July and I'm talking about lighting a fire, but of course the storage heaters are off and we don't want them on this time of year. But I think just a fire for a couple of hours just to take the chill off, and then because we've got the wood burning stove, that heat will just sort of radiate out and we won't be cold as we were last night. But I do sort of think as I'm getting older there is going to be a point where I'm not going to be able to split logs, so I do have a contingency as to what we're going to burn, and basically it's going to be sort of the compressed are they called pellets, or basically compressed sawdust, I think it is, which is quite an eco-friendly kind of way of doing it because it's a used from a waste product, and I certainly won't have to split those. You know, I think that's a few years off, but you don't have to think about these things. Anyway, I am going to say goodbye for this week. I hope you've had a fantastic week, and I look forward to sharing next week's staycation with you. So until next time, have a lovely creative week, my friend.